Hi. Thank you so much for tuning in to this little episode here, whether you're watching on YouTube after the fact or watching it the day that I made it. I hope you enjoy it. I try to keep up on current events, and I'm also talking about some other issues, cultural issues, whatnot. There was something I was researching over the weekend a little bit. This Peter Thiel, his parent, being known to the media as his lover, has been found murdered. I looked through all the material, and I'm sure you could go read through all this stuff yourself, but there's an investigation into the murder of this man. I mean, he's a suicide. But whenever it's a suicide, you never know, because the way that can be defined by the police is that he may be engaging in risky behavior and been killed, or, was, in other words, was suicidal by his attitude, or may actually have killed himself, literally. It'd be interesting to see how that investigation sort of plays out. But what I thought was really interesting about the situation that got my interest, or because of my background, is that he was placed in a home that had been owned by the cult group NXIVM, the weird cult group that has been partially broken up by the U.S. government. Not entirely, I don't think. Definitely not entirely broken up. Still pretty active in Hollywood and other parts of the country. But some of the founders and creators of it have certainly gotten in trouble, but nowhere near enough. You have to wonder when a person is placed in housing that was once run by them, because it appears that, and then they die. Because a lot of times cult groups, especially they're tied to the Russian mafia, which that group was tied back to them actually eventually. Most people don't realize that. Oftentimes involve technology. And technology that's used to keep people under their control. So there's that sort of old line by Susie Orman from the 90s where she used to say, don't let your possessions control you. Don't let them run you. Most people can understand what she was saying. And sometimes it just sounds like Susie Orman doesn't care if people have money or housing or basic possessions. What she was actually referring to is the reality that if you've been in any kind of a bizarre situation, and only somebody who's actually gone through this stuff themselves or has investigated any of it or read up on it would be able to understand it, but your personal possessions, your furniture, your HVAC system, your home can be used against you by people that want to terrorize you or control you. And the Russian mafia is very commonly done that. They're very big on that. They like to bully people that way. So sometimes, I'm really big on a home and nesting and being happy and having possessions, but I also think you have to come to recognize when gifts you've been given or furniture items that you have may have been hijacked in some way, and your wonderful collector table that you think is still valuable is actually something that's being used to hurt you somehow. Because that can actually be done based on the mechanical structure of certain types of furniture and possessions. And I know you're going, that just seems really weird. Well, it's real. It's part of modern day life. It's part of technology. And frankly, it's tied back to Nazi activities and Nazi behavior, because the Nazis were pretty big on using technology in really weird ways to control people and hurt them. Just so you know, I'm not trying to give you conspiracy theories. I'm actually trying to help you understand life. Because all of us have known somebody who just said they'd had it and threw out all their furniture one day. I certainly just let go of a whole bunch of my furniture because of the situation I was dealing with. Am I happy about it? No, I'm sad. But, you gotta move on. Gotta live your life. Can't stay static, right? Just how life goes. So, I need to also refer back to the thread I keep pulling through, because in a previous episode, I referred back to this meeting I had with this guy back at Luther College. You have to understand that I was a winner of a huge amount of prize money at Luther College, and this guy hadn't talked to me in over a decade, and all of a sudden he showed up at the school at the time claiming we were engaged in a meeting where I thought I was going to be talking about business issues, and my money was taken afterwards. When I couldn't go to medical school, had problems with nursing school in more recent years, and have had problems with constant harassment ever since. And he runs a very large company, and he has a long history of stealing from people and running the company. And he also put me through a long extortion scheme, and it still hasn't been resolved. These things have to be resolved. Everything has to be resolved. It's one way or the other. So I'm waiting on DHS for whatever they're going to do next with all of that, and however that plays out. Because the U.S. government has their own, path to walk and play and these things, and all these other private organizations and companies have all their own paths to walk, and whatever, life plays out the way it plays out. But the point about it all is that nobody ever, in all the years I was in DC, thought that guy actually was planning to have a meeting with me to talk about engagement or potential marriage. Everybody agreed and thought in the end that it was only about him simply bullying me, beating up on me, stealing, and then trying to set up an extortion scheme. And he has been proven to be Russian Mafia. So, other than advising that you never go to Luther College and never waste a day there, sorry if you went there, but there's more people by now who've been prepared for all of this and what it all means. I can't imagine anybody's looking at the news and thinking Putin's like a winner when Putin just had to finally admit that his best intel teams and fighting groups aren't very good anymore. That his elite are not so elite, right? So that became a running joke around DC over the years as everything was unfolding. It was the elite are not so elite. Right? Anyway, so that's all I really have to say for a shorter edition today. I just want to throw some ideas out there for people, and if anyone's struggling, because it's really hard sometimes, and I think we all need, what's called resilience, which is the ability to overcome those kinds of situations. I don't think anyone's ever seen more of it than I did. I lived 19 years in DC area going through all this and working with different agencies. And, when I say working, I mean as a witness. And also turning over information. And I always thought it was funny that because this man had tried to make the mistake of trying to pretend like he wanted to be married to me, when he was clearly only someone who just wanted to use whatever ideas I had. And let's just note, nobody is that dumb. Like, anyone could look at the type of women he takes up with and their personalities and knows that those women are nothing like me. You couldn't dress them like me and make them like me. The 2 wives he's actually had, he's probably gonna flop out this next marriage too. But I mean, you couldn't. Not in a million years, nobody would ever believe it, because the only kind of women he took up with were women that were down with everything else he was into and related to the mafia and down with drug dealing and had, I don't know, that kind of network. I don't have those kind of people. And I wouldn't use it. So, unfortunately, anyone he's ever been with would be that kind of person, and that was pretty obvious, just from the way they looked and dressed and acted and everything about them. And that's just something to know, if your kid says they want to get involved in the Hollywood industry, be careful, because so much of that industry is just run by people that are not going to be good for anybody, including your kid. At this point, at least still. Now, in the future, filmmaking, songs, modeling, writing, creative projects, you can do those all over the country. You can live anywhere in the U.S. and do that. And that's the beauty of the modern day era. So please don't ever forget that, because there's a lot of people who live regionally that are artists all over the country. And they're very, very happy people. And there's a whole world out there of careers and sciences, and there's a lot of really good jobs and needed industrial jobs and technical jobs that the U.S. needs. Like, I'm just telling you, the world is full of opportunities. So please don't ever forget any of that, any of these conversations. I'm just throwing some ideas out there today in sort of a hodgepodge show. But I'm going to go back and sing a song that I've already sang because I felt like doing it again. I didn't know if I sang it the best way the last time. So I'm going to go ahead and sing it again today. And it's Stand Back by Stevie Nicks, by the way. So, no one looked, I walked by, just an invitation would have been just fine. Said no to him again and again. First he took my arm and then he ran. No one knows how I feel, what I say, unless you read between my lines. One man walked away from me. First he took my hand. Take me home. Stand back in the middle of my room. I did not hear from you. It's alright to be standing in a line. To be standing in a line. I would cry. La 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 la. Do not turn away, my friend, like a willow I can bend. No man calls my name and no man came. So I walked down away from you. Maybe your attention was more than I could do. But one man did not call. He asked me for my love and that was all. Stand back in the middle of my room. I did not hear from you. It's all right to be standing in a line, to be standing in a line. I would cry. La 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 la. Too few. La 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 la. So I walked the line away from you. Maybe your attention was more than I could do. One man did not fall. Well, he asked me for my love, that was all. Stand back in the middle of my room. I did not hear from you. It's all right to be standing in a line, to be standing in a line. I could cry. I need a little sympathy. Well, I need a little sympathy. Well, I need to be standing in. Stand back. Well, I need to be standing in. Stand back. Well, I need to be standing in. Stand back. Take me home. Take me home. Stand back. Don't you take me home. Well, I need a little sympathy. Stand back. And that is my rendition, because I just did it a couple months ago, but I'm doing it again, of that song because I think it's a good song. And I wasn't sure I totally liked the version I did of it. Every version is a little bit different, you know. People have different days with their singing voices. But anyways, that's all for today's edition. And the show has been growing, and I thank you all who have been following along and staying with it and sharing it.